Interaction design is the practice of designing interactive digital products. So let me talk about an example here so you can understand better. So imagine you're going to a supermarket. Then as you walk up to the supermarket, someone suddenly stops you and says, "Oh, thank you for coming to Tops Market. Before you can come in, can we have your name, address, email, and permission to send you notifications on your phone?" How would you feel, right? It would be awkward. And yet, we see this online over and over again. You see, apps do things in an order which you would not see in a conversation with a real person. So, interaction design at its core, if you take everything away, you're getting a conversation with the product. You're creating the conversation with the product. So, what's the most important thing about having a conversation? Which means just don't be awkward, right? So the key principle of interaction design is when designing interactions, you have to make them feel like it's a natural conversation. So the interaction design, the content, and the user experience all have to work together to provide a natural user interface. Otherwise, the user won't come back to use it. They won't feel compelled to use it. As you'll see from this demonstration, my car will lower the AC fans to listen to my voice. Navigate to Megabangna.
Navigating to Megabang, your shopping mall.
Mental models are a key component of interaction design. Let me explain this with an example. Early 2016, Chrysler Automobiles recalled over 1 million vehicles due to a new gear shift redesign known as the rocker switch gear shift. And what this gear shifter design does is if you press this button here and you move the knob to select your gear, but the gear always stays in position, in the center position. It does not move. The only indicator you have is the PRND here, and it will be illuminated by the light. But there is no positional feedback. So this is what happened with this design. People were getting out of their cars thinking that the shifter was in park, to then have the car drive off without them. And this led to 100 crashes and over 40 injuries. Chrysler said this was driver error. And this is classic bad design. If the people you're making for do not understand how to use it, it is entirely not their fault. It is the designer's job to design in a way the people can easily learn using their past experiences. So anyways, Chrysler's fix was to implement additional warnings and encourage users to read their manuals. Will this fix the problem? Of course not. The problem wasn't because the people were not reading their instruction manuals. The problem was because the people were used to a positional feedback system when changing gears. And this is feedback that does not require you to look at the gear all the time. And the traditional gear selector has been a well-established system that has been around for years. It has been around for so long, it is fixed into the public's consciousness now. You can't change something so conventional and expect everything to be alright, because people have this sets of experiences built up and they take that experience into that new thing you're making, and that's how they expect it to work based on their previous expectations. And that's what the mental model is. A mental model is a person's internal representation of external reality based on learning and experience. So it is very important to consider this before designing a new product. Like they say, you do not need to reinvent the wheel.
Interaction design is a problem-solving activity, creative activity, and a decision-making activity. For making an interaction design, we need a plan for the development, which includes a set of alternatives and successive elaborations. As we talk about interaction design, there are some major involvement of users as the interaction design is based on the user's expectations and their demands. The designers have to make sure that the system they design match the expectations of the users because their expectations are realistic. They would not like any kind of surprises and disappointment and would expect the design to be easy to learn and understandable. Interaction design enables the users to be the active stakeholders of that particular system. The process of making an interaction design starts from understanding the needs of the users, which will be converted into requirements. After having the user requirements, the designers will start building a conceptual model of his own, as his thinking and the user's thinking of a conceptual model cannot be the same. After the model is built, he will show it to the user and ask their opinion on it, whether they want any changes or not. To make a successful interaction design, the designers should follow these basic activities, which are establishing requirements. Talking about establishing requirements, it is the most important activity, as without requirements, the designers cannot build an interactive design. It is exciting for the designer to design what users want. Nevertheless, a good designer is able to design for the needs of the users. User requirements define the characteristics of the target user group. Second, designing alternatives. Designing the alternatives depends on the creativity of the designers, but it should meet the requirements. It is like a backup tool, as if the original design doesn't work for the users, they can use the alternative one. There are some steps of designing alternatives which are as same as creating an original one. The main purpose of designing alternatives is to help the users if the original one is not liked by them. Third, prototyping. In other design fields, a prototype is a small-scale model, but in interaction design, it can be a series of screen sketches. Designers use prototype to make sure that the evaluation and the feedback are related to interaction design. In prototype, team members can communicate effectively. There are some issues which should be prototyped, which are technical issues, workflow and task design issue, screen layouts, and information display issue. Last activity is evaluating. Evaluating is the method of testing the design to know the number of errors made during design, to know the feedback of the users, and to find out that does the design match the requirements or not.
So to conclude, HCI is the design and implementation of interactive computer systems that users can interact with. So it is a balance between design, functionality, and usability. It is important to make it all work together to prevent product failure. Thank you very much.